So now what you have to do is you have to pull out 4 pieces of paper that you're going to want for your box. So you're going to want to pull out what you're going to want on the sides of the box. I'm putting felt on the bottom of my box, so I'm not showing you how to cover the bottom of this. It's just going to be felt, which I'll get to towards the end of the video. But you're going to want what you're having on the sides of the box, what you're having on the inside of the bottom of the box, and then same with the top cover, the lid. You're going to want what's on the outside, and you're going to want what's on the inside. Okay, so I have chosen this for the bottom of my box, and this is the side that I want facing. So I'm going to flip it over and do the scoring from the back side. And let's see, I'm going to take, because I can't find my ropes. I can't find my ropes right at the moment. So I think this was, get this straight, yeah, 2 1/4. So just like we did scoring the bottom of the box, the inside, we're going to do the same scoring, although on using the scoreboard. So we're going to do 2 1/4 all the way around. Oopsie. This is the 3rd side. Oh, for heaven's sakes. There we go, and one more. 2 1/4. Alright, so now what you're going to do is you're going to cut these boxes out, and you're going to cut right inside the center of the score marks. So we don't want to go outside, inside, or whatever. We want to go just right down the center of the score mark, okay? But don't go towards, don't go past where these 2 score marks that make our center square, don't go past that mark. Okay. Let's see this. Alright, so we're going to do that on all 4s, and then I'll be right back. And then you're going to burnish the score marks. There we go. And we're going to take our box. This is the bottom of the box. And we're going to try this out for size. I'm going to center it. And we're going to see if we're going to be covering the whole box by gluing this down and such. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take score tape, and I'm sorry this is like white on white, so I don't know how much of it you can see. I am not covering up the score lines, okay? Now I might not be getting it all the way to the score lines, but that's what glue is for. First I used the largest tape I had, which is a 2-inch, and then this is a 1-inch, and I just lay it where I want it, figure out how long I want it, cut it, and then I'm butting it up against the existing tape because I want everything covered, and I'm making sure that I'm not going to go over the score line. And if you drop it and it's a little too close, just snip off a little edge of it. You know, it's not that big a deal, because you can put glue in the score line area, so it will still stick. And then this little piece here, let's see, I think I've got a 1/2 inch. Let me see. How's this? That'll work. So we'll lay this right here. Open it up past where you need it. Snip it off. And again, as long as you're not going over the score line. There we go. So there's that covered. And then you're going to take another one of these. I'm just going to show you one more here. And we're going to want this all the way up to the score line. And then we're going to do, I don't think 1/4 inch is right on that. Let's see. Yeah. If a little bit of it hangs off somewhere, I will just fold it over. And there we go. So you're going to do that to all 4 sides. You don't want to, you want all 4 sides and the center to be by themselves, because it makes it easier. I don't know what that was. It makes it easier when you're lining it up on your box. So I'm going to get tape on all the rest of these 3 sides, and I'll be back and show you what we're going to do. Yeah, I think this was it. I guess I had turned it one too many times. Okay. So, alright, so then once you have it lined up where you want it lined up at, I'm going to pull this first one back, making sure that I don't allow the paper to move. Anything that needs to be folded over, fold it over. Okay. I'll flip it around here a little bit so I can see it, and I can make sure you can see it. Now I pulled all of the sticky back off of there. I'm going to pull this up so that it's a 90-degree angle, and I am going to push the paper on there. Okay. Now if you have overlap, don't worry about it, because we're going to just trim it right off. You do, however, want to make sure, because I think this one slipped just a little bit, it wasn't quite all the way in the crack. And I don't think I can pull it back off again, but let me see, because I really haven't pushed it down. You want to make sure before you really push it really hard that you have it in the crease. Hold this up. Push. Make sure you've got the paper pushed down, and then there we go. Now I'm going to give it some burnishing. You always want to make sure you've got it the best you can. Okay. So now that you've got the first one, the rest of them are going to be pretty easy. So now you're just going to flip this over, and we're going to take off the entire center section. Oh, my fingernails have broken. I have a hard time getting this now. Now if you wanted to use glue with this, go right ahead. We'll give you more wiggle room. So now this should just pull this up 90 degrees and then just try and make sure that you're laying it down nice and flat. There we go. Very good. Alright, and then we're just going to do the sides. Pull these suckers off. Flip the tape back over. Now one thing I said we were going to do that I haven't done yet, let me find my glue here, is right here where I didn't really put any tape, just right along the base of the box, 90-degree angle, and there we go. There's those two sides. I mean, no, got these two sides. Sorry. And pull this one out. Come on. There's that. Okay. And bend this back over. There was quite a bit of it hanging over on this side. You don't have to worry too much about this top because, like I said, the part of it that's sticking over is going to get cut off, and you're also going to cover it. So there's that 90-degree angle, and push your paper on. Last side. Okay, so there it gets you the inside of your box. And all we're going to do is, if we have leftover, I'm going to just go around and trim that off on all four sides. And I have a little bit of trim off to do on all four sides. And then get your lid and the paper that's going to go on the outside of your lid, and I'll meet you back here. If you have a large section, let me put a little white under here so you can see this. If you have a large section that is not covered, now this was a piece that I cut off of one of the edges, and it's like perfect width. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. And this has still got stickiness on it. Let me snip. Okay. And then I'm just going to feed it right down onto the edge of the paper. Alright, and then we're going to let that dry, and then I am going to go ahead and clip it off. But we'll let that dry. And I want to make sure I've got it pushed all the way in. okay? And then when you close these up, they're not really going to show, but it will be I don't want to push on that yet because the corners are going to be nice and tight, okay? But now we're going to leave this alone, and we're going to move on to the lid. Get all of this out of the way. Let me put a few things, throw things away. I'll be right back. So I have my top now, and what I'm going to show you now is what we're going to do to cover the outside of this one. Okay, so you're going to start with your 12 by 12 sheet of paper that you're going to want for the outside top of your box, the lid of your box. Okay, so you are going to, I'm going to write this down, let's see, to cover top of lid. You're going to start with a 12 by 12 piece of paper on each side. Well, so twice now, but on the first 12 by 12 side, you're going to score 5/8, 1 3/8. Let me get this on there a little bit closer so you can see what I am writing. There we go. 2 1/8, 10, 10 3/4, and 11 1/2. So you're going to score across the one side, and then you're going to turn it and score across the other side, and that way you'll have all 4 sides done. Okay, so let me pull you back out, and I'll show you on the first side, and then I'll get it done on the second. Okay, so 12 by 12, we've got 5/8. We've got 1 3/8. And 2 1/8. Then 10, 10 3/4, and 11 1/2. And then we're going to flip it and do the same thing on this side. 5/8, 1 3/8, 2 1/8. Over here, 10, 10 3/4, 11 1/2. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to cut out the first, let's see, can you see? Let me see. I wonder if you can see it better on this side. Okay, let me get something, hold on. Okay, so I went and got my white pen, and I wanted to show you what the lines look like at this point. So now what you're going to do is you're going to cut up on this side all the way to the point that makes the square, the big square. And you're going to cut on the, just on the outside well, the most inner side of the score mark. Now you're going to turn it this way. This is where you've got it cut, and you're going to cut this way on the most inner side of the score mark, but right, just pretty much right on the score mark to this. So you're going to leave this little strip, flip it back over, and you're going to cut this one all the way. So now you're left with this little strip right here. And that's what you want to do on this side and this side. I boo-booed on my line. So we're going to do the same thing. This one on this bit here is all the way, so that's what we're going to do over here. We're going to go to the inside of this score mark, but still right on the score mark, just kind of leaning over. And we're going to go to the where these two diverge. I'm sorry, this is a bit confusing, but where these two lines diverge. Then you're going to flip it, and you're going to cut just to here. Okay? And you're going to flip it back, and you're going to cut this one to there. So now you have these two ends that are like this. Now we're going to, these two ends are done, we're going to grab and we're going to turn it all the way around, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to, we've got these two ends that haven't been cut yet, so now we're going to flip those so we've got it bottom and top. This bottom one is going to get cut all the way to the point. And we can go ahead and do this one as well. It really doesn't matter. I get confused if I do it that way. So now we're going to do this cut just to the second mark, the second score line. So there you go. And then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to cut this one off. Okay. So now I have these two looking like this. So this is the one I just cut. This is the only one that's not cut yet, so I'm going to flip this around this way. And I'm going to take this one and I'm going to cut it right up to my diverging lines from my big square. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to cut this one to the second score mark, and I'm going to flip it back around and I'm going to cut this one all the way over. So basically what we're cutting out are the three, there's 6 boxes right there. We're cutting those out and then we're leaving a flap. Okay, so let me put this here. You can see I've got a flap here and a flap here. You see that? So both of these are facing each other. Alright. Now we're going to take these flaps and we're going to start, and we're just going to taper them on both sides just a little bit. And last one. Okay. All right. Let me clean up. I'll be right there. Just making sure you got these measurements. You're going to do this on one side, on 1/12" side, then you're going to turn it and do it on another 1" side. And then that will give you the measurements. Then you're going to cut it like this. We went over that. And then you're going to put score tape in the center. And I think this is the way I'm going to be happy with it. I honestly don't remember how I did it the first time. And you want to make sure you burnish all the score tape. Makes it easier to get off. It's the main reason that you do it. And it just gets it really hooked into the paper so it's not easily pulled off. Okay. Now you'll notice that some of this is sequin tape and some of this is not. This is going to be good enough to stick. You know, it's not going to come up. I'm going to add glue in these sections out here. So that's it. So that's what we want to do. We want to get your cover, get your top out. And we're going to line up. And again, one end might line up better for you than another, but I think this is going to work. I'm just seeing where everything is on my edges here. And if you get it where it's hanging too far any one direction, it's not going to, it's going to have to be trimmed down. So this is looking pretty well. So we're just going to pick one side. We're going to, let's see. We actually want to pick the sides that have the flags on them. So that's the side we want to do first. And we're going to make sure that we are lined up as best we can. And again, if it's going to hang over too far, you're going to want to trim it back a little bit. But we're going to see where we're at once we get this done here. We're not going to trim until we're done with that. Okay, I've got this lined up. I've got the edge down here, and I've got I've got this piece lined up with these pieces. Now, if it's my druthers, I would rather only have to cut down one side, but then at the same time, I don't want to throw everything off. Okay, so I'm going to hold this, I'm going to drop this down, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. I had a little section over the score line. That's one thing you don't want to do, is get over the score line. I'm going to take glue and I'm going to put it right, oh, it dried on me. Sorry. Oh, for heaven's sakes. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to pull this up Did I move? Oh yes, I moved. Alright, I'm going to pull this up and put it right in the crease. And everywhere pretty much where there's not glue. I'm going to fold this again and make sure that I've got it pulled all the way, that I've got this pulled all the way up into the fold of the paper. And I'm pushing the score tape and glue into the lid. Okay. Excuse me. Then, see my, okay, tilt it back just a little bit so you can see. Then I'm going to put glue right at the edge here, so when it gets folded over, it'll have something to glue to. More glue there. This is somewhat still clogged. Alright, so now we're going to pull this 90 degrees. We're going to fold this over. And we're going to pinch it down and pull it into the crease of the box. Nice and tight. It's pretty hard on your fingernails, but then I'm giving it a little burnish on the edge of the box there. Okay. And remember, we're using glue, so I'm just making sure that I'm getting a good drying, and I'm spreading that glue. I'm really pinching and spreading that glue around. All right. Okay. So there is your first part. Now there is a little bit of paper that is over the score mark. So I am just going to cut diagonally in, and then just on the inside of that score mark, and I'm just going to pull that up. Okay, and that way it's not going to interfere. And on this side, a little bit of the same, so not very much. You want to make sure that you've got a fairly sharp blade. There we go. Okay, so now we are prepped. Now we're going to flip this up, and you're going to peel off all of this backing. Now there's a few spots here that didn't get any of the score tape, and I'm going to put some glue there. Not a ton, but I don't want there to be any real issues. All right, and we'll put some right along the top here. There we go. Okay, so now we're just going to fold this back down, and ba-bam. go. Nice and tight. Okay, so now we're going to go to the opposite side, and we're going to do the same thing. Pull that, pull that. We're going to put glue right, come on, right along the edge. Let's show you what I'm doing here. Right along the edge. And then, oh, come on. This is not happy with me. I left the pin out of it. Just not happy. Oh, come on. Sometimes you just, there. Sometimes you just gotta squeeze it until you get that icky thing out of it. There we go. And then I'm putting it everywhere where I don't have the score tape. There we go. All right. So we're going to ease this up. Going to fold it over, and you'll see that we've got it, that score mark. Oops. That it's right folding over on that fold mark. And then you're going to bring it around and squeeze it down. Let's get some burnishing done so you know it's nice and down into that corner. That against that, and then just keep pinching it until we know it's nice and dry. Want that glue to take good hold and that tape to get burnished in there really well. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing. Clean this all up here. So we're going to take our blade, and if there's anything, which this one is, laying over a little bit as well. You don't want it much past that fold mark. All right, there we go. And this one I'm going to leave alone. That's not going to be bothersome at all. Okay, now the next one that we're going to do is this. And this is where these little tabs are going to come in, okay? So I'm going to take a little bit of glue and put right here. And I'm going to put glue. Well, let me get this off first. Oop. Okay, now I'm going to put glue where the score tape isn't. And we have to do both sides at the same time pretty much. Okay. Now we're going to pull this, pull these two together, and fold this around and push it. Getting that glue helps get everything kind of molded around. Now we're going to do this one. Sure. Fold it around. And that's another reason we taper it, so that it's not going to be in the way. Okay, and then all we'll do is take this off. Again, we're going to put glue right all the way right there. There we go. Now you can do it one or the two ways. You can do it this way, so that now it's stuck, and then you're gonna feed it around. You want to kind of look. Now this one here is a little long. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut it down the side there, and I'll clean that up as I need it, but this needs to go in the inside here. So, whoops, that would not come off my finger. We're going to cut just a little bit off of this one. Okay. Kind of taper it, and then we're going to fold it over. And fold it down. And that one is still too much. There we go. There we go. Very nice. And then we're going to do this side the same way. We're going to pull these little side tabs off on both sides. And I would say let's check this. This side's good. This side is hanging over just a little bit. So I'm going to cut this down. I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm just going to kind of cut this and then taper it in. So it's still here sticking out, but here it's straight with the black board. Okay? And we're going to add glue to our little sides here. Oops. There we go. Glue to the little sides. Got a little extra sticker there. Pull this up. Line it up. And then, oh, and I forgot. I like to put some glue right in here. There we go. Line it up. And fold it over. And rub that glue and that sticky stuff. There we go. And this side. split round. Good. And start pulling it over the top. And then folding it and pinching it down. Okay, so that is the lid to our box. And we're going to pull all four sides just so you can see. Whoops, missed one. And there is lots of room there to still get our paper on for the outside of the box. Now, for the outside of the box, you're going to take whatever paper you're going to be using, and you're going to cut 12 by 12 paper will give you 3 sheets, which is more than enough. And you're going to cut it 3 3/8. You're going to cut 3 sheets of 3 3/8. Now, I'm using this side of it, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be wrapping it around the box. Because remember, we're putting felt on the bottom, so I'm not putting paper on there. If you want to put paper on there, about a half an inch of this is going to get folded over, and then you can put a piece of paper over the whole bottom. Okay, and then about a half an inch of this is going to be pulled over this and around the top, so there will be about a half an inch of this color on the inside of the box. Okay, so then that'll be it. I'll get it all finished up for us. And then how I put these together is the same way we put together when we're covering a journal cover or a mini album. We're just going to use 1/4 of an inch, or you can use a 1/2 inch. There's plenty if that's you feel better using that. And we're just going to hook them together. Now mine, on the box I had the stripes, and so you want to make sure obviously that you're cutting them the same way, but that when you're matching them up, that you're matching them up this way so that you don't have a line going here and they're not matching up, kind of thing. So you want to kind of think about that when you're choosing the paper that you're going to put on, because it did make it a little bit more difficult. There we go. So there's the first piece. And a little bit left over, and that just stuck out there. I missed it. So let me just cut that off. Sticky tape. You love it and you hate it at the same time. Okay. And then we're going to do the same to another piece here. Okay. And we're going to just cover this up, that 1/4 of an inch, and make sure everything is lined up. It's all nice and straight. Okay. All right. Okay, so now what I need to do is have you hold on a second. Okay, so I'm going to try and show you. Now I've seen people where they've taken this. I took, back up here, I took my Tim Holtz ruler and I lined up on a 1/2 inch on one side. You could do 1/2 inch, you can do 5/8, you know, whatever you want, but somewhere, you know, around a 1/2 inch. And I drew a line all the way down. So I hope you can see that. Okay, it's all the way down. And then I just took one piece of score tape, and you can cover this whole thing, which I've seen them do, is cover the whole thing with score tape. I'm going to use glue, but this is going to help hold it in place. And I'm not going to take it all the way off. I'm going to work it in sections. Even though this is all the way, you can pull it up and rip it and pull off the section you want to work this in. So first, you're going to try and hold your box, and you're going to line it up along the line, keeping in mind that the junction where the two sheets of paper are, that does not need to be anywhere near the corner. Just like in an album, you don't want it at the spine, where the spine and the front or back cover meet. You don't want it where the corners come together, or, you know, anywhere really close. So just keep that in mind when you're doing the box, when you're placing this down, that you don't want that to happen. Okay, so you're going to take your box and you're going to line it up however you choose. I line it up to the edge of the pencil mark where I can see the pencil mark, but I can't see any of the brown paper. Okay, and now I hold this. I pull away my score tape and rip it. So it's basically right where I need it to be. And then I'm going to pull this back up and lay it down. Oh, but I moved. Don't push it until you check it. I moved terribly. Well, I didn't move in practice. Let me flip this down just a second. Okay. All right. It's the first one that is the hardest to get started. Let me pull this out of my way. Make sure I haven't moved. And lay it down. There we go. Okay. Now it's a little easier. Now I'm going to see if you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to press these two ends together, and I'm going to move this well, one thing I didn't do is add the glue that I wanted to glue, that I wanted to do. Add the glue that I wanted to do. So let me pull this back here and put some glue on this. Okay, there's that side. And flip and do it this side. I'm going to get a good bit of glue on there so you can spread it around. Oh. All right. Now which side did I take off? This side. Okay. So I still have a good 1.5 to 2 inches before I get to where these two sections have been put together. So let's do it this way. And I'm going to fold this over. Let's put some glue right on the edge of the box on this side and right on the edge of the box on this side. And then okay. So glue the edges and fold this over. And I want to make sure that I'm also staying on my line. There we go. I'm just kind of lining that line up as I'm going and keeping it right at the edge of the box. Go. Nice and tight. And we're just going to do it again. I'm hoping I'm doing this where you can see it, because this is kind of fiddly. And I can't do it and watch and make sure I'm staying in. So I'm getting on the edge of the box. Okay. So again, we're going to hold these together. And we're going to make sure that we've got the edges together on the box. So one's kind of sitting on top of the other. And pull this over because I want to maintain. Getting my own light. I want to maintain. I'm trying to figure out how I can do this for you can see it, but I can still do it nicely. Oh. Okay. this black stuff, when it gets glue on it, it can stain the paper black. So just keep that in mind when you're working with light colored paper, which is this gray, that as I'm getting it, as I'm pulling it together, it's it turns my paper. Let's see if I can get that. No, where are you? Ah! I can't even tell if I'm showing it to you or not. Where is it? Where did it go? There. Okay. Am I showing you? Right there. That actually stained from the paper. So I will have to come up with something. I don't think everybody, you're not gonna all have this kind of problem. But it's the glue was wet. It wet the black stuff, and this stuff will come off on your fingers and onto your light colored paper. So if you can get the craft color, you don't have that problem. The black color, you do have that problem. Okay, so now we're going to start the other side, and you don't use the whole thing, but you use the majority of it. So I'm going to put glue on the edge of both sides here. And we'll just there we go. Okay. Get these together. And come around the corner. And the most important part is keeping this line. I mean, you want to get the paper all folded over nice and tight, because that's what's going to hold your box in the shape that you want it. But you also need to keep this 1/4 inch line at the bottom of the box. And I'm basically pulling and controlling where that line is going. Okay. And this PhotoPlay paper, I'm finding that I like it. It's not super thick, but it's very durable. So I'm really liking it. And if you don't forget to use this and not your fingernail like I sometimes do when you get glue. Because this is very, very hard to not get glue all over everything. Okay, now before we do this last section, I'm going to cover this up so I don't stick it down. I'm going to lay this on top of the edge of the board here. I'm not pulling it over and laying it all the way. I'm kind of corner to corner, and then flip it and see where I want to cut this. Okay, so I want to cut it about here. And I am not a straight cutting person at all, so I'm going to see if I can get this into my cutter. Let me remeasure again. Yeah, about here. There we go. Okay. Okay, and again with the glue, pull this back off. This all the way across, but just at the top and the bottom. You don't want to go over because you're not ready to glue that part down yet. And you're still going to be focused on, well, a number of things, but you want this line to stay at the end of this box. And then you can make sure that you're finishing this off. Here we go. Okay, so now we're going to get our snips, and you're going to get right in the corner and cut it right to the bottom of the box on all four. Okay. And we're just going to put, and you want to get the glue underneath here too, because you didn't glue those spots. And you're just going to fold this over. This glue grabs fairly quickly. It's always a little harder right around the where the two are sealed together. And you're really making sure that you're not bending the paper on the top. And if you feel like it's easier for you to do the paper on the top first, then go for it. I don't know why I do the paper on the bottom, but that's what I do. So remember, this bottom is all getting yeah, you're going to put felt or paper along this bottom piece, so you're not really going to worry too much about it. I mean, other than getting it to lay down nice and flat and firm. And if you have to, you can slightly, just ever so slightly, taper the edge of the paper. Little extra push around those corners. Make sure everything's laying down nicely. I guess the reason I do the bottom first is I want to make sure the top looks the best it can. And if I get to lay the bottom down, I can put all the pressure I want on the top. And, you know, the bottom I can cover up. The top, not so much. Okay, more glue. Again, I'm putting it right at the end, right in the, at the fold, I should say. And then there we go. Try not to get too much. Okay, get the gooey off my finger. All right, here we go. And this is one side that doesn't have any of the spots where the paper was doubled, so it's usually the easiest side to push down. And that one was good, didn't have to taper that. There we go, looks good. And let me double check. I think that's all right, and that's all right. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't need to taper before I got this last section down. Ooh, and I'll be glad because my fingers are killing me. Okay, so we're gonna fold it over. Do-do-do. This is tough on the hands. But then once this is done, you pretty much, the box is done. Yeah. Just putting the bottom on and putting the inside of the lid. And then any decorations you're gonna do. Okay, now, oh, my hands. Woo. Okay, So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut right up to the box, not beyond, not into where the box is, where the paper is to the box, just right up to the box and in the corner. Okay. So I tend to do trial runs, and I see, and it's all right now if there's a little bit, like this side, I cut a little bit over on this side of the center. So I'm going to try and see if I can do this side down first. Yes. And this side is good. I got both of these sides cut so that there's not a mess. Alright, so I'm going to pull this back up and I'm going to put glue. I'll put glue right along the top of the box and then all on my paper. Okay, then you can lay this and just burnish it really well until you have it in there nicely. Okay, there we go. And I tell you, this is one of those Teflons, nothing better. It doesn't scrape your paper up, nothing sticks to it, keeps it nice and clean. Okay, let's see what we got here. Good. And that might be a smidge. So I am going to, if you find where you think it's going to start tearing, I'm just taking ever so slightly, I mean a 1/16 of an inch off, and I kind of tapered it, okay? So I'm not really cutting more into the point where I'm, and don't forget to glue these down. All right, put glue on this. And then on your tab. Okay, let me get this pushed in the center. If there's any big globs of glue, get it out. Nice flat top there. Make sure everything is nicely pushed down. Okay, same with the next one. I'm going to cut this just about a 1/16. I don't know if you can even see this. That's what I cut off right there. Just a little bit, and it's tapered. Trying to see if I could turn it over to the dark side. To the dark side! Okay, it's just enough where it's not going to tear the paper when you're forcing it over the edge. Okay. We are almost done, yeah! Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, and last one. Yay! Okay. Now I'm going to do a little bit of that taper again. It's just the teeniest, tiniest bit. Okay. And let's see. Okay, so this does help it a little bit because it is just kind of a gluey stain, so it does take some of that off. That made that look so much better. So, and it is just beautiful. Goes on there really sweet. And then all you got to do is cover the bottom and the inside of the top. And all you would do, if you want some of this paper to show, then you would just measure accordingly. So if you wanted some of the paper to show, you might do like a 7 1/4 square. But see, this is 7 7/8 is the outside. The inside is, well, inside's the same. What am I doing here? Yeah. So 7 3/4 is the inside. So I would say make it 7 1/2 if you want to cover almost everything. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it 7 1/2 all the way around. 7 1/2 square, and put a piece in there. And then I just take my felt and I glue all the way around the edges and put glue everywhere. And I use my Fabri-Tac for that. And then I take a piece that's larger than the box and I spread it on. And then I just take scissors and cut, or if you have a really sharp knife, you can lay it this way and just cut it along on your healing mat, self-healing mat. So that is the box. Now the next thing that we do when we come back for our next session will be the album, figuring out the album and what size we're going to put in there. Okay? All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. Bye.